Ever feel like you're searching for that thing, that elusive thing called purpose? This time we're ditching all the usual self-help tropes and
Yeah.
diving into a book with a refreshingly bold title, I thought. You Are Your Purpose.
I like it already. It cuts right to the chase, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's by Marcel Ruja, who seems to have a pretty diverse resume, husband, father, musician, church leader.
Wow.
You get the sense he's probably had some real life experience grappling with this whole purpose question.
Absolutely. And what makes Marcel's approach so unique is how he ties purpose directly to our identity.
Okay.
He brings in spiritual insights without that preachy feeling,
Right.
focusing instead on uncovering that core truth of who you're meant to be.
And he structures the book in a really intriguing way. Chapter 1 jumps right into this concept of power,
Yep.
but not in the way you might initially think.
Interesting.
Okay, let's unpack this a little bit.
So Marcel argues that true power isn't about control or dominance. It's actually about recognizing a power greater than ourselves.
Hmm.
It's about surrendering that need to have all the answers.
Yeah.
And instead, learning to trust in a plan that extends far beyond our own limited perspective.
He compares it to a machine, saying, we function best when we're following the manufacturer's instructions, so to speak.
Yeah.
Where do we find this instruction manual for life?
That's where the spiritual element comes in, right?
Yeah.
Marcel points to faith and connecting with God as the key to tapping into this power.
Okay.
It's about drawing strength from something much bigger than ourselves. And he uses a great analogy from the Bible, the parable of the talents, to illustrate this point.
Now that you mention it, I remember that story. That was the one about using the gifts you've been given, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How does he connect that back to the idea of finding your purpose?
It's all about recognizing those innate gifts, those talents within you, not burying them out of fear or self-doubt.
Right, right.
These talents, these passions, they're like clues, right? They're like clues pointing towards your purpose.
Okay.
We're called to use them not just for personal gain,
Right.
but to contribute something meaningful to the world around us.
So we've got this power source. We're starting to see our talents as clues. But how does that actually translate into living out our purpose in a practical way?
Yeah, how do we actually do that?
Chapter 2 is called Harmony. Tell me more about that.
This is where Marcel digs into the real work of aligning your life with this newfound sense of purpose.
Okay.
He emphasizes integrity,
Okay.
walking the talk,
Yeah.
being true to your values, ensuring that your actions actually reflect your beliefs.
So it's about that feeling of wholeness you get when everything clicks into place.
Precisely. And one of the most powerful ideas in this chapter is that you are your purpose.
Okay.
You can't be someone else, nor should you try to be.
Right.
Authenticity is key here.
That's a good point. He also emphasizes joy as a key part of this journey. Yeah.
Which is interesting because chapter 3 is actually titled Fun. Not a word you typically associate with finding your purpose.
I know, right?
Yeah.
He makes a really compelling case for living your purpose, not with grim determination, but with a sense of joy and even playfulness.
He uses a pretty vivid example from the Bible to illustrate this Jesus turning water into wine at a wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about finding joy in unexpected places.
Exactly. It's like Marcel is reminding us that God wants us to experience abundance, to savor life, not just trudge through it.
So there's a lightness to it, a sense of adventure, almost.
Yeah.
But how do we tap into that, especially if we're feeling like lost or unsure about our direction?
That's where this idea of Christian hedonism comes in.
Okay.
Now, before you think we're about to advocate for a life of reckless indulgence,
Right.
let me explain.
Okay, you've definitely got my attention. Christian hedonism sounds a bit paradoxical, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? But it's not about indulging in earthly pleasures for their own sake.
Right.
It's about understanding that God himself is joyful.
Okay.
And he created us to experience that same deep, abiding joy.
So how do we connect with that joy in a practical way?
Yeah.
How do we even begin to access it in our everyday lives?
Well, think about moments when you've experienced genuine joy.
Okay.
It's not like superficial happiness, but a deeper sense of contentment, of rightness.
Right.
Almost like you're connected to something larger than yourself.
I can see that. Those moments where you feel totally aligned with something greater, it's a pretty powerful feeling.
Right.
But how do we cultivate that more consistently?
Marcel points to a passage in Hebrews 12:2, which says, "For the joy set before him, Jesus, he endured the cross."
Wow.
It suggests that Jesus faced unimaginable suffering, not for the sake of suffering itself, but for the joy of what it would bring. Our redemption, our relationship with him.
That's a powerful thought, finding joy even in the midst of such immense sacrifice.
Right. So joy becomes this driving force, this motivator, even in the face of challenges.
Exactly. And it's not just about like enduring suffering. It's about finding joy in the everyday too.
Yeah.
A beautiful sunset, a meaningful conversation, even the simple act of serving others. These are all glimpses of God's goodness, and they're all reasons to embrace joy.
It's like choosing to focus on those moments, to let them fuel our spirit, right?
Absolutely. We're already loved, we're already chosen, and we're on a journey filled with purpose. It's about recognizing that inherent joy and letting it transform how we approach our lives.
It's interesting how he brings in the parable of the prodigal son to illustrate this.
Oh, yeah.
What's the connection there?
Remember the extravagant joy the father feels when his son returns home.
Oh, right, right.
That's the kind of love God has for us. It's a reminder that no matter how far we've strayed, no matter our mistakes, God delights in welcoming us back.
Wow.
And that's a reason for incredible joy.
That's incredibly reassuring to hear. It takes the pressure off striving for perfection, doesn't it? Like it's okay to make mistakes, to stumble along the way.
Exactly. And it ties directly back to the idea that our purpose isn't something that we invent or force.
Right.
It's already woven into who we are,
Yeah.
waiting to be uncovered.
So it's less about achieving and more about aligning with who we were created to be.
Precisely. And when we do that, joy becomes less of an elusive goal and more of a natural byproduct. It becomes our default setting.
That's an amazing way to think about it.
Right.
So we've got this concept of power, the importance of aligning our actions with our beliefs, and this invitation to embrace joy as a guiding force. It feels like there's a theme emerging here.
Yeah. And what's really exciting is how Marcel ties all these threads together in the next part of the book, where he delves into the challenges and unexpected detours we might encounter on this journey to living out our purpose.
Okay, now you've got me really intrigued. I mean, it makes sense that finding and living out your purpose isn't always smooth sailing.
Right. Yeah, got it. Marcel doesn't shy away from that.
Okay.
He dives right into the challenges.
Okay.
He even uses the phrase living dangerously.
Living dangerously.
Yeah.
Now you've really piqued my curiosity. That sounds a bit, intense for a book about purpose.
It does sound a bit dramatic, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little.
But he's not talking about, reckless behavior.
Okay.
He's talking about the courage it takes to fully embrace your purpose, even when it challenges you, even when it makes you uncomfortable.
Right.
Even when it means going against the grain.
Because, let's face it, living a life of purpose can sometimes ruffle some feathers, right?
Absolutely. But think about it.
Yeah.
If we were all just blending in, not making any waves, would the enemy be working so hard to distract us, to discourage us, to hold us back?
That's a really interesting way to look at it. Almost like if you're facing opposition, you might actually be on the right track.
It could be a sign.
Yeah.
And that's where it's so crucial to remember who defines us,
Right.
It's not the opposition.
Right.
It's not the critics. It's the one who called us in the first place.
Okay, yeah.
It's about staying anchored to that purpose.
And that purpose always involves love.
Right.
Loving God and loving others.
Absolutely. Marcel is very clear about that.
Okay.
He emphasizes that our purpose is never solely about self-improvement or personal gain.
Right.
It's about reflecting God's love to the world around us.
And not just talking about it, but actually like living it out in our actions every day.
Exactly. He talks about integrity.
Okay.
Walking the talk, aligning your actions with your beliefs. It's about making sure that what you do matches up with what you say you believe.
Because that's where that true harmony comes from, right?
Right.
When every part of your life, your thoughts, your words, your actions are all moving in the same direction.
You got it. It's about that sense of wholeness.
Yeah.
Of everything clicking into place.
Right.
And it's fascinating.
Right.
When you're living in harmony with your purpose, others can sense it.
Oh, wow.
Even if they can't quite put it into words.
It's like they're picking up on a frequency or a resonance that's just different.
And that's because you become a reflection of God's beauty and design to the world.
So it's not just about finding our purpose. It's about allowing it to flow through us.
Yes.
Touching the lives of those around us.
Beautifully said. And to take it a step further, Marcel challenges us to think, to talk, and to act in the same direction.
Okay.
He's calling us to live authentically.
I love that. Think, talk, act.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder to live with intention, but that requires constant self-reflection, doesn't it?
It does.
Making sure we're not like compartmentalizing our lives, but striving for that harmony you were talking about.
And sometimes that can mean having the courage to be different,
Right.
to stand out,
Yeah.
even if it means standing alone.
Wow.
Powerful analogy from the Bible to illustrate this point.
Okay.
The story of the three men who refused to bow down to the emperor's statue.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's such a powerful story about standing up for your beliefs, even when it's difficult.
And that's where our true character shines through, isn't it?
Right.
In those moments when we're tempted to compromise, to just
Yeah.
go along with the crowd.
It takes a lot of courage to stand firm in your convictions,
It does.
especially when you're facing like pressure or criticism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we don't have to summon that courage on our own, right? Remember, we serve a God who is always with us, strengthening us,
Right.
empowering us to live out our purpose, even in the face of adversity.
And it's not about seeking like approval from others,
Right.
but about staying true to the one we're called to honor.
Precisely. Sometimes honoring God means like disrupting the comfortable,
Wow, yeah.
the conventional, the expected.
It's about embracing the adventure, the uncertainty, and the limitless possibilities that come with aligning ourselves with God's plan.
And trusting that even when we make mistakes, and we will,
Right.
God can redeem them.
Yeah.
He can use them to shape us and
Yeah.
draw us closer to Him and to the fullness of our purpose.
That's such a hopeful message. This is resonating with me on a deep level. There's so much freedom in embracing the journey
Yeah.
and trusting the process, even with all of its twists and turns.
Yeah, for sure.
But where do we go from here?
Marcel doesn't leave us hanging. He offers some really practical guidance on how we can start living out our purpose in tangible ways. He reminds us that it's not about some grand, sweeping impact we have to make.
Right.
It's about recognizing that every act of love, every act of service, no matter how small, can create a ripple effect.
I love that image of a ripple effect.
Yeah.
It speaks to the power of those seemingly insignificant moments, doesn't it?
It really does. These ripples might reach places we never imagined, touching lives in ways we may never fully comprehend.
It's humbling, isn't it?
It is.
To think that something as simple as like a kind word or a helping hand could have such a far-reaching impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not about seeking recognition or accolades,
Yeah.
It's about being faithful stewards of the gifts and talents we've been given.
Okay.
It's about surrendering our ego, our need to be in control, and simply saying, "Here I am, Lord, use me."
It's beautiful. It's about getting out of our own way and letting God work through us. But what if we're still struggling to figure out what those gifts and talents are?
That's where the journey of discovery comes in, right?
Okay.
Explore different avenues, to try new things, to step outside of our comfort zones.
Right.
He reminds us that it's okay to experiment, to make mistakes even, because that's how we learn and grow.
So it's about embracing the process, trusting that we'll uncover our purpose along the way.
Exactly. And being open to the possibility that our purpose might, it might evolve over time.
Yeah.
What we're passionate about today might look different 10 years from now, and that's okay.
Right. So it's not about finding that one perfect path and sticking to it rigidly.
Right.
But about staying flexible, staying connected to that inner compass that guides us towards our purpose.
You got it. It's about staying in tune with God's voice.
Yeah.
Listening for His whispers in the quiet moments.
Okay.
And being willing to adjust our course when He nudges us in a new direction.
That takes a lot of trust, doesn't it? Trusting that we're on the right track, even when we can't see the whole picture.
It does.
Yeah.
But that's where faith comes in. Taking that first step, even if it's just a tiny one, and trusting that God will meet us there.
That's so encouraging. So as we wrap up our deep dive into You Are Your Purpose, what's the one takeaway you hope our listeners will carry with them?
That's easy. You are your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you need to invent or force. It's already woven into your DNA, waiting to be uncovered.
Such a powerful reminder. It takes the pressure off, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not about about achieving some grand destiny,
Right.
but about embracing the journey, the twists and turns, and trusting that as we align ourselves with God's plan, we'll step into the fullness of who he created us to be.
Beautifully said.
Mm.
And that journey, as daunting as it might seem at times, is meant to be filled with joy, with purpose, and with that deep satisfaction that comes from knowing we're living a life that truly matters.
I couldn't have said it better myself. So to all our listeners out there, keep searching, keep exploring, keep diving deep into the truth of who God created you to be, because you, my friend, are your purpose.
And never forget that.